faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome. Glad you're with us on this June 24th, 2025. How many of you were up late last night watching the coverage in the skies of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv? How many of you were monitoring your various social media feeds for up-to-the-minute reports on what was happening as this ceasefire we all anticipated going into effect, right? For those of us that follow this so closely, we were literally counting down, waiting for the ceasefire to go into effect that Donald Trump announced yesterday afternoon on Truth Social. Well, it went into effect, but it went into effect and was broken almost immediately. Apparently, it went into effect, and then there were already missiles on the way from Iran, depending on which report you believe. Some say, well, it was a mistake. They didn't mean to fire that one. Well, regardless, we have some dead Israelis. One of them, I think, was a captain in the IDF, or a colonel, or a corporal. I'll have to double check. A young guy, 18. I think he was a corporal, 18. And his girlfriend, beautiful couple. Have you seen their picture? Beautiful couple, 18 years old, each gone. We have many, many others that are wounded, some severely. And the buildings seem to be targeted, again, full of civilians. So here we are, folks. For now, it seems to be holding, although, again, we're getting conflicting reports out of the Middle East. We're getting reports that Israel intends to do something about this. We're going to go to Annie Cyrus because we also have an election taking place today, a primary with the Democrat Party in New York City. And it looks like about 16 points ahead is the Democrat candidate who, in my opinion, looks like he's pro-Hamas, pro-Jihad. Has had some horrific things to say about the Jewish people, the Jewish state. New York City. Wow. Who would have thunk it, right? 24 years after 9/11. We'll see how this goes. Here we go. ICE nabs 11 Iranian migrants, including suspected terrorists, as Border Patrol warns of possible sleeper cells. That seems to be getting a lot of coverage lately, does it not, folks? We talked about this for years and years and years, and it just gets ignored by the mainstream media, pounding the desk all last week over this. And then finally, voila, like on cue, let's talk about sleeper cells. Something I hope to deal with tonight on television. 60 missing kids found in Florida during largest rescue in U.S. history. 60 missing children. As fragile Iran ceasefire takes root, IDF chief warns campaign against Iran is not over. There you go. Lots of news today over at worldviewreport.com. Worldviewreport.com. Here's a question. Where are the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium that Iran stored at Fordo? Where is it? Where is that highly enriched uranium? Here's another question. If we are so concerned about Iran, and rightfully so, what about Muslim Brotherhood, which is the founder of Hamas? Why have we not designated them a terrorist organization? Here's another one. Leftist support for Iran to wipe all Jews off the face of the earth sometimes comes from unexpected places, and it's actually a video of a lady. I don't know why all these silly ads come up all the time, but they do nonstop. But it's actually a video. I can go back and find it again, guys. Where'd that go? There it is. Listen to this lady with her accent. Listen to her talking about the Jews. Listen to this.
Come on, Iran, get the job done. Keep at it and at it, you know. If you haven't got enough money for the missiles, I'm willing to chip in a bit. I've got a few quid going spare. I don't mind helping you. Come on, get the job done. Keep at it. Keep at it. Flatten it. You know what I'm talking about. Flatten it, like Gaza was flattened. You get that job done. You get it done, kidder. Sort the buggers out. Teach them a bloody lesson. Yeah, I'm with you, Iran. You sort
I'm with you, Iran. You sort it out.
out.
Wow. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus. We'll get an update also from Aaron on the ground in Israel. And we'll endeavor to take your calls today on all of this. President Trump, of course, walked out of the White House this morning. We can't play the clip. We'd have to bleep it. He really was upset with both Israel and Iran. Joining me now is Annie Cyrus on several major issues, including a race in New York City, primary race. Let's start first with Israel-Iran. Annie, welcome back. Give us your analysis of what has happened since last night.
Thanks for having me back, Brandon. Since last night, more Jewish civilians have been killed, as you mentioned. Two major Iran regime members have also been killed. Looks like they say ceasefires are finally in place. I don't buy it, not for a second. Reason. All day this morning, I've been translating and posting on my Substack, some on Facebook, of heads of regime coming out with the statements, such as former President Rouhani, who signed a deal with Obama, if people remember him. He came out and said ceasefire doesn't mean end of the war. We're just getting started. We had the top dog of nuclear program in Iran come out and say, we don't have nuclear in our minds right now. This was after Trump said the last thing Iran has in their mind is nuclear. He said, we already gathered what we need to rehire all the staff we need. So that's for the nuclear program. As far as where the uranium is, I have no idea, Brandon. What I can tell you is, as of right now, unless I missed it, I have not seen proof from American side of destruction of these nuclear facilities that we hit. But what I have seen on Iran TV was a live footage from Fardo bunker, inside the bunker, and two reporters and one IRGC member walking around and showing Iranian people that everything is intact. I've seen that, but I haven't seen anything from America's side showing that they even made a dent on Fardo. And
Didn't even make a dent? Did you say didn't even really make a dent on Fardo?
Well, I'm saying we have not even seen proof that we made a dent.
Okay.
What proof I have seen of them, and that's the thing. Originally, when they showed the bunker, I was on the phone with you on Saturday night, and I say, I can't confirm if this is right now or previous filming. But yesterday, they went live with reporters, with IRGC members talking up-to-date information, saying, look, nothing has happened. So I've seen their proof of saying Fardo is still standing. But I haven't seen our proof of Fardo has been demolished based on a statement by President Trump. So the question remains to be answered that I put on my Substack that was released about an hour ago, that where is the proof and what did we achieve? The only thing that looks right now to me as an American or as an Iranian is this current administration just gave another chance to the regime that has killed many Americans. And I want to be very clear. I specifically focused on American lives on this Substack. The very last few lines is about Iranians, but the rest of the Substack is to remind my fellow Americans that Iran has been our enemy. It is still our enemy. And President Trump just bought them more time and achieved nothing after almost spending over $40 million of American taxpayers on dropping those bombs. So if this name wasn't Trump and it was Biden, Kamala, Bush, Obama, I want you to honestly look in the mirror and see what your reaction would have been compared to what your reaction is to the name Trump. And then judge yourself. Are you being biased? Are you taking a side that is not logical or American? Maybe you should change your side. Maybe you should change your perspective. Maybe you should stop defending one name over the sovereignty of our country.
And, you know, I was having another conversation today with Colonel Manus, who'll be back on our broadcast tonight. He was saying from the beginning, we need to stay out of it. America. Now, this guy is and so are you, Annie, and this guy is very, like I am, very pro-nation state of Israel. And he was saying, look, we need to stay out of this and let Israel handle it. Israel says they can do it on their own. They said they can bring in special ops and do what they need to do to get rid of those nuclear facilities after they owned the skies. And Colonel Manus was like, look, everyone talks about putting boots on the ground. What about the boots in the cockpit? We have to be careful of those guys, right? So we have to be consistent. Where is our national interest there? We got to be consistent with Ukraine. We have to be consistent with Israel. Where is our national interest? He said, I would have to ask that. What is the direct threat to America, if any? So obviously now you're looking at classified information you'd have to be able to see. And that's what he's saying, though. Where is the direct threat to America for us to be involved in putting our people, our troops, our pilots in harm's way? Number one. Number two, then, of course, you're activating, as we are now seeing, the great concern about the terror cells. What I would ask is if we're able to round up, by the way, all these people they're rounding up, who they say were the worst of the worst, some of them, from Iran, why were they not rounded up on the first day President Trump was elected? Well, who is running the show? That's not President Trump's specific job. He's the overseer. But why is it now all of a sudden we find these Iranians that are the worst of the worst? We couldn't find them the first 30 days? That seems a little odd. But look, here's my bigger concern. Mark Levin is going at people major hardcore. Steve Bannon is going at people major hardcore. Steve Bannon tweeted something back about Tel Aviv Mark Levin or something. Now when you start getting this kind of language in there, okay, I don't agree with Mark Levin on a lot of things. I think he's a neocon. I think he wants to go to war. But I don't want to see people saying, oh, well, there you go. There's Tel Aviv Mark Levin. Why do we have to always bring in the Jewish thing, right? Why do we have to go there? That's not what this has been my concern from the beginning, okay? Listen to me, audience, and listen well. My concern was that this was not handled correctly. It could be a threat to our national security with these terror cells. Been consistent on that for years, right? Number two, what did I say? If this is not handled correctly, it will again boomerang on Israel and fuel anti-Semitism. So this has got to be done correctly and in the right steps and with the right messaging. And I would say that in many regards, President Trump's people have failed him with not good messaging and education of the American people. And so my concerns are still the way they are. How will this end up impacting America? How will this end up impacting Israel and pouring fuel on the fire of anti-Semitism? Because now I see even people in America that are part of the MAGA crowd going at each other in ways that I think does not help America, but in many regards kicks up the anti-Semitism that we've been trying to tamp down and stop for the longest time. And now it seems to have spilled right over into the mainstream of MAGA. It was before this on the fringes. Now it's right in the mainstream, and I'm very concerned. Annie will respond when we come back. Don't go away. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, well, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today. worldviewtalk.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Annie, will you address my two biggest concerns that I've been trying to hammer home? And that is, again, as I reset it, the national security implications for us here at home, number one, and preparation for that, messaging of that to the American people, which came a week later. And then number two, if this isn't handled correctly, it will boomerang on Israel and it will kick up the anti-Semitism. Speak to that, please.
I'm in agreement on both points, both concerns. I have been with you on that for probably 6-7 years now. Unfortunately, I can say with certainty right now that this was mishandled and it's going to be mishandled moving forward for next week or two. As far as the sleeper cells go, if Khamenei was still in a bunker, there would be nobody to make the call to action. But Khamenei is out of the bunker, thanks to President Trump for managing the peace in the world, making a deal with Islam. Yes, I am being sarcastic. The chances of a sleeper cells being called into action just went from 30% to 90% as of this morning.
Why?
Leaders are
Why?
back in,
Why?
because leaders are back in their place. When I say Khamenei is out of the bunker, I mean Khamenei is out of the bunker. He took the power back from the IRGC Supreme Council, and he's back being the supreme leader. The country is back under regime again. He can make the call now.
I'm also getting reports that Jews are being now arrested in Iran.
Yes. So as of right now, well, I should say as of 20 minutes before we get on air, 176 Iranians were arrested, picked up. Either accusation for spying for Israel or cooperating with Israel, or you're a Jew. They haven't even shown proof. Some of them are not really Jews, but they're being picked up as being labeled as a Jew.
And this group here has it as high as 500.
I don't have the 500 confirmed, so I can't speak to that. Wait, 500 from day one until today. I can confirm more than that, actually. I'm talking about last night, our time, which was morning time in Tehran.
Oh, you're saying just since last night, 150?
Just the ceasefire, since the ceasefire,
yeah,
167 have been picked up.
And many of those are Jews.
They are. Some are Jews, some are not Jews who are being labeled Jew. Some are active journalists who were sending videos to people like us. They've been arrested for spreading propaganda. So yes, there's and right now this morning, UN actually released a concern letter that 2 of them are most likely going to be hung by tomorrow morning.
Do we have any reports that anybody feeding information to you and to our network has been arrested?
I do have confirmation. One of my sources have been arrested, yes.
One of the people who's been providing information to you and then you to this network has been arrested?
Yes. That I do have confirmation.
Well, let's pray for this individual.
Yes, and I will. There's not much, unfortunately, we can do today, but I'll keep you posted if scenario changes or if we get any news on where their location is. And that's the thing. If I could get personal for a second, Brennan, when I write the Substacks I always leave my emotion out of them. However, I see the consequences of one individual's actions. I've seen it for my whole life. I faced it for 15 years of my life, and then from there I kept on tracking it and seeing it in other people's life. This is nothing to celebrate. And on my Substack, I repeat it, next time any person who's supporting Trump's action today and celebrating this ceasefire, and any of you next time put a picture of Mahsa Amini on your profile page, you're a hypocrite. Don't use my people's blood and death as pawns to make yourself look like a caring person.
And that was the woman that was killed. That was the woman that was killed for not wearing the hijab, correct?
Correct. The movement that you generously allowed me on your show almost 90% of the time to report on what's happening to Iranian people, and they were killed. And we blame Biden for not backing him up. Remember, people? Today we celebrated Trump giving another tank of oxygen to very monsters who have been killing our people and my people in Iran. So next time you want to pretend like you care for Iranian women, don't. You showed your hands.
Annie, we don't have the analysis on these networks, like has come from you and Colonel Rob Maness, David Pine, and others. We end up with silly analysis. We have a clip, I'll play it on Brandon House Live tonight, where the former press secretary, what's her name, Kayleigh McInerney or whatever her name is, said the other day, all we need is one plane to just swoop in, I'm sorry, that's silly. This is why, again, we tell you, if you want to be a simpleton, in my opinion, just keep watching Fox News. You'll be a simpleton. Because that's what she said. We just need one plane to just swoop in from America and take care of it. Really? And then I'll play a clip tonight of Brian Kilmeade. Brian Kilmeade asking about these bombers taking off of aircraft. Really? Does he not know which aircraft can take off of these carriers and which can't? Look, you're getting very simple and often wrong analysis, which I think is nothing more than the CIA talking points at Fox News. And that's why many in the MAGA crowd have an emotional reaction when they hear the truth from David Pine, Colonel Rob Maness, or Annie Cyrus. Here's the difference between the guys at Fox and David Pine and Colonel Maness and Annie. Colonel Pine and Maness have been in the military. Colonel Rob Maness served in the room in the Pentagon that very few people are allowed to walk into. He has been in those airplanes. He knows. He's oversaw these bomber squadrons. He was the commander of Kirkland Air Force Base. He knows. He speaks from military experience. I have no military experience. I rely on experts. That's my job. I am simply a conductor, like leading an orchestra, bringing together the experts that create the orchestra of truth and analysis. That's all I can do is conduct and then call on the string sections or the brass section or the wind section to make an orchestra of truth play out. But you don't get that on Fox because, in my opinion, all they want is the CIA simpleton talking points for the simpletons that watch those kind of networks. And so the MAGA crowd hears someone like Colonel Rob Maness or David Pine, and they go on Facebook or on X, and they start accusing them of being anti-Semitic or stabbing Israel in the back. Wrong. They're providing you with analysis that should be going to the President of the United States so he can be successful, so Israel can be successful. And then you have people like Annie who have been persecuted personally and thrown into Sharia court and jail in Iran, knows the people that have been killed, knows how perverted these people are. And so what happens is, because simpletons hear information from ignorant people, they then go on social media and make condemnations of the smartest people in the room with the experience. That's how a nation's destroyed, is by having a populace, a citizenry that is foolish because they have not acquired what? Knowledge, the acquisition of truth. So they can have what? Wisdom, the application of that truth. And we, I'm sorry, have a nation of fools. And the MAGA movement is made up of a lot of people that are, I wouldn't say fools, but a lot of people in the MAGA movement that are educated beyond their intelligence. They're educated beyond their own ability of reason, logic, and context. In other words, they put as I've said over and over, they put a governor on their brain. They put a governor on their brain and said, I can only handle, or I only want to handle so much. And then I have to get back to my football and watching a bunch of fat guys push each other over on painted grass. I can only handle so much, and then I got to get back to watching a bunch of guys fighting in a ring, packing out a stadium. What is all that crazy stuff that goes on over the weekend where they fight each other? What is it?
WWE.
UFC? Yeah. All of this kind of craziness. Because I don't want to be educated. I don't want to be educated. So I put a governor on my brain, and when people use words that are too big or they go too deep, I turn it off. Oh, that's just too much. Because I prefer to be a useful idiot of groups like, and that's my opinion, Fox News and the CIA. And that's what's going on, folks. So when people with experience and people that really, frankly, should be in the Pentagon, should be in the room, bring you expert analysis, they get attacked by the MAGA crowd. Because these are people that have not chosen to listen and acquire knowledge and have wisdom. And it's sad. Annie, your response.
That's absolutely accurate. Yes, I will also add a third category of people who have gone so far distanced from God that now in the lost angle of life, they have found an earthly man to idolize. I suggest that you try to find God again instead of defending a man who's just a man, flawed like the rest of us. You're defending him blindly, not realizing he used the term of path of righteousness and truth on his truth post last night, and his followers should take that into consideration. Are you following the path of righteousness and truth by blindly defending actions of a man who won't admit he made a mistake? That could help our country.
And if we had stayed out of this, like Colonel Manus recommended from the beginning, who is a pro-Israel man, he said, we should stay out of this, sell them the armaments, give them the intelligence. We can certainly even, do things like that, but we need to stay out of this. And Israel came out and said, hey, we can do this. Even if we have to use special forces and commandos, we can do this. And we would not have what's going on now. And if they had let Israel finish the job, and then let the Iranian people be in a position to get rid of these mullahs. Let me tell you something, folks. I don't want to get too graphic here. I got a hard break coming up, and we want to get to Aaron. I still want to talk about New York. Annie, is it true that the Khomeini, did he promote a book or write some literature on how to rape a baby? Is that true?
Yes, this is the book.
What is it?
His little green book. It's called the Little Green Book. This is the smaller version of it. The original version is much bigger. When he became the supreme leader, he wrote a book. They call it Resale. Every supreme leader has to either write a new one or just the old one. His had chapters on sex, approved by the supreme leader under Sharia. And in that, the meme is available on my page, actually, if anybody wants to say. He described that if it happens that you end up penetrating a baby, then if you kill the baby, you pay the blood money to the parents. If you cripple the baby, you have to pay for her life for the rest of her life. Other than that, you've done nothing wrong.
And you think Fox News or any of these other networks would ever put this on the air?
Never.
Why are we negotiating with someone? Are you telling me, yes or no, he has justified raping babies?
Absolutely.
And
yes,
we're going to
100%.
negotiate with these people?
Yes.
And we're going to say, God bless Iran when these people are in charge. We'll be right back.
Nature has a rhythm, a quiet strength, a way of restoring, protecting, and renewing us. Wellness isn't just about how you feel today. It's the quiet choices you make for tomorrow. At myvitamin.com/worldview, we've made daily self-care simple. Quality vitamins, daily supplements, and targeted nutrition. myvitamin.com/worldview makes it easy. Pure ingredients thoughtfully combined, tailored for your body. Formulated by a doctor who has over 25 years of medical practice experience and is a certified functional medicine provider. Visit myvitamin.com/worldview today and take the next step towards strength, balance, and resilience. Discover the wide range of med packs made for you and your loved ones. What you nurture today becomes the strength you walk in tomorrow.
Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, that he had a book on how to rape infants. How many of you knew that? Why are we negotiating with people like this? Why are we asking Israel to hold back? Why do we not let Israel get rid of these people, do what's in their best interest and the best interest of the whole world? Why? This is horrible. And I venture to guess that President Trump doesn't know that the Khomeini has a book on how to rape infants. And you're going to negotiate with people like that? I wanted to get with Annie on the mayoral candidate who's running 16 points ahead in New York, who I have all kinds of videos with anti-Semitism, supporting the jihadis. I'll cover that tonight on Brain House Live. But first, I got to play you what Colonel Manus is now calling the Cartoon Network, Fox News. He calls it the Cartoon Network because they love to show a lot of cartoons and speak things that are not even factually true militarily. Here's one of them. What is her name? Caney McInerney or something? Listen to this.
America First is not sitting in a beach chair and using words. It's taking decisive action when we can take out Fordo with one swoop of an airplane.
Take it out with one swoop of an airplane. Wrong-o. But again, keep watching Fox News. You'll be dumber by the hour. You know, there's a reason why Fox News and these networks, in my opinion, do not put people like myself or Annie Cyrus or David Pine or Colonel Manus on the air. They're not interested. I don't think they're interested in truth. I think they're interested in a narrative. And you have to ask yourself, where is this narrative coming from? And why? There's a reason why this broadcast is growing. Because we don't play politics. I am thankful for so much of what Donald Trump has done. But you know what? He doesn't have good advisors. He does not have good advisors. And I'm reading now, he just put Mark Levin on a big DHS committee. Really? A neocon who, by the way, isn't Mark Levin one of the guys that's for doing away with the U.S. Constitution as we know it through a Article 5 convention? Wow. He does not have the right advisors around him. I'm sorry. He doesn't. Why is Colonel Rob Manus not in the Pentagon? It's not because they don't know who he is. It's not because they don't know his qualifications. So I want to know why. It's not that he's not willing to serve. Why are guys like David Pine not being consulted? Guys like Colonel Rob Manus? How many people know the truth about the Iranian regime, what they're doing, what they're up to, including a little book by the Khomeini on raping babies? And yet we want to negotiate with these people? We want to trust these people? We want to say they have a great future? Who is consulting President Trump? I'm sorry. I'm with Annie. I told you from the beginning, we'd praise him when he did good, and we would call out what's going on when we have a problem with the administration. And a president is really only as good in many ways as the advisors he has around him. The Bible speaks to that, right? That there is wisdom in good counsel. Joining me now is Aaron Lavarco, our reporter on the ground in Israel. He's outside tonight. Aaron, where are you tonight?
Hi, Brandon. Hi, Annie. I'm in a city called Rehovot, and it's a sad place to be right now, Brandon, because this is the place where our first president, not first prime minister, our first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, he did not live here. But we also have a president, which is the equivalent to your Secretary of State, and his name was Chaim Weizmann. Actually, the man that was first asked to be our first president was Albert Einstein, actually. But he declined. He did not want to get involved in politics. But his good friend, who also was a scientist, Chaim Weizmann, he became our first president. His ID number is number 1 and his wife is number 2. But why it's sad to be here, because I'm just in the area where his house was. It was then later on turned into the Weizmann Science Museum, which for decades has been doing research, and many, many, many Nobel Prizes have been born out of this building, Brannon. But sadly, the Iranians, in response to us targeting their scientists in a nasty move, they attacked this building and they destroyed decades of hard work.
Did they
research.
know that? Were they targeting it? Were they targeting
absolutely. Yeah, for sure, Brannon. Rehovot, it's in the central region, but it's never hit. It's never a place of attack. And it's obviously very clear that they were planning to attack this building. And an eye for an eye. We took out their scientists. They took out a symbol of, isn't it crazy? We're doing it fighting evil. And here at this museum, they're doing it to fight evil like cancer and disease. And these Iranians wiped out decades of hard work. I was listening to an interview of one of the scientists who work here in his laboratory. He was absolutely devastated. They had made so much progress in so many areas, and now it's going to take a long time to undo the damage and to start again. And some of them are in their not elderly age, but they're not young people anymore. Very, very devastating.
Yeah, very
for
sad.
them.
Let me get to a couple other points. We've got to move very fast. A lot of information. Last night, rockets come in. The ceasefire, it went into effect, and then the rockets were on their way while the ceasefire went into effect. It gets really foggy in war. Tell me how that went down.
Basically, Brandon, what I'm reading, what I've heard on the news is that there was one missile that was fired from the Iranians, but it's more than one missile, Brandon, because all the sirens go off. All the detectors go off. Everyone runs. Everyone goes into their bunkers. It's more than just one missile. And I've been listening to you and Annie talking about Donald Trump's response and how he racked Bibi Netanyahu over the knuckles for retaliating. We don't know where that rocket's going to fire. These are ballistic missiles, some of these rockets that are firing over us. So it was one missile. That's what we're hearing. But we don't have time to count how many missiles, and we need to retaliate and in the line of defense straight away. So that's what
Aaron, we should not be dictating to your country what you're doing. No more than you should dictate to us. You're a sovereign country.
Brandon,
we're a sovereign country. You have what you need. Your people said you could finish it. If you had to use commandos to do it, we should not be racking your prime minister on the knuckles.
Yeah, but what I wrote to you, Brandon, the fact that your government, your president, supplies us with so much weapons and bombs and missiles and air defense systems and radars and on and on and on. What could we do? Could we go against him after he's done so much?
Is that what the relationship is like? Is that the nature of the relationship between those two?
Well, this absolutely, Brandon. This war.
But what I'm saying is, it shouldn't be that way. Okay, that's not how the relationship should be.
No. You know what? I don't see it that way. I see the relationship as fantastic, but all of a sudden, President Trump throws a curveball and tells us to stop. He decides when he wants
now you
to stop.
sound like you've joined my side that I've been on now for a week or two, and you've been defending my president. Now it sounds like you now have come to realize what I've been trying to say.
Well, on this point,
there were rumors they were about to put you on the committee for building his library here in the U.S. You're such a strong supporter.
I was about to sign up. Okay, no, I'm being serious. No, on this, again, when I was listening to you and Annie talk, the word that came to me, I hate to use it, the word abortion. This is a half victory. We have a sense of celebration. We have a sense of victory. 98% of the people in Iran, according to a poll, say that Israel won the war, and only 2% say Iran. That's in Iran. But for us, we have a sense of victory. But Brandon, I've got to think of my children. I've got to think of my children's children. Today, the Iranians have said we are starting to rebuild our nuclear program.
And we don't know where 900 pounds of that highly enriched uranium even is. It's running around somewhere in Iran.
That's right. That's right. This is insanity. And of course, we all want a breather. We all want to go back to normal life. And the authorities say tomorrow morning, everything is going to go back. The schools are going to go back. We all want that. But we're only thinking short term. I'm telling you now, the iron is hot. Now is the time to do it. Is this
ceasefire going to hold, Aaron?
Oh my gosh! You know what? Knowing the Iranians, I hate to say this. In some ways, I wouldn't be surprised if it did, because now they're going to, like the rats of Hamas, like the rats they've been for the last 20, 30 years. They're going to go underground. They're going to find ways. Look what happened with, what was his name, Medved from Russia. I heard you talk about that last night. He offered to give some of these rogue nations, including Iran, a nuclear weapon. He didn't even say it in private. And so where is this going? Now, that's beside the point. The point is, I think, personally, we should be continuing.
Yes.
In answer to your question, will the ceasefire hold? I fear to say I think it might do. And simply because right now, Iran, they're in a bad situation, and they're going to lick their wounds. They're going to somehow...
Well, that does help us, by the way, understand where we're going, because we were like, well, if they do a regime change and they put in the prince is allowed to go back over there, then how does this set up with Bible prophecy? Now we're right back to, the regime being in power, and now all they got to do is rebuild, grow, and then boom, they got their coalition to move on Israel, Ezekiel 38, 39. Isn't it interesting to watch all of these... this weaving back and forth in the geopolitics and national security implications as we try to figure out Bible prophecy. And now we're right back on track for Ezekiel 38, 39.
That's right. And listen, what I've just said, tomorrow morning, who knows? The prince, he got up, he declared something. He obviously knows a lot more than you and I know. Maybe he's got his people. Maybe the Mossad, maybe, for all we know, Donald Trump has ordered the CIA to help overthrow the regime, but he's holding his cards to his chest. We don't know.
Maybe he's negotiating. Maybe he's negotiating a ceasefire and a peace deal so that there's no bombs and these things aren't falling. So then he can work, as you just said, clandestinely to remove the regime and put in the prince. I have actually had people who have come out of the government that have told me, what if that's what he's doing?
We don't know. He's a smart guy, and that's why I'm very careful.
He is a smart guy, but I'm not so sure about some of the neocons around him. That's the problem.
Right. But on the other hand, Brandon, he's nobody's fool, in my opinion.
No, he's not, but he's not perfect. He got led down the road on COVID.
Right.
He pushed the shot, and all these things. So we've got to remember history. He has made mistakes, big mistakes, and now we have the equivalent of dead people in America from the shot equal to World War I, World War II, and Vietnam. And we dealt with that last night on Brandon House Live. Now, I'm not blaming that on President Trump. I'm blaming that on these advisors that got around him that pushed this on him. And I don't want to see our president deceived again. None of us want to be deceived. And that's the thing about deception that makes it so you don't know you're being deceived. Look, I need good counselors. You need good counselors. The president needs good counselors. He's only generally as good as his counselors. We'll be right back.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Let's go back to Aaron, LightToTheNationsMinistry.com, brought to you by our foundation. We send him regular love offerings for his great reporting, education. He brings us analysis. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Aaron, we also are hearing reports that your guys, let's see if I can find it real quick, Iran's chief of general staff, quote, in light of the serious ceasefire violation committed by the Iranian regime, we will attack them with force, end quote. What's the latest on that?
I don't know when that was reported, Brendan. If that in my opinion, was done earlier on in the day when we did respond, and we did respond heavily, massively. But that seems to be over. And by the look of that picture, it was in the daytime. Right now, it's in the evening. It's about 9:45 at night. So that's gone. We're ready. We're still on relative alert. And as I mentioned, our home front command has said everything will go relatively back to normal tomorrow morning. But we're going to be still on red alert. In the meantime, we've still got a front battle in Gaza Strip. While this war over this last 10 days has been going on, we've been continuing to pound Hamas and their operatives in the Gaza Strip. We've still got a ways to go there. The other day, it was yesterday, we destroyed, I saw a video of them blowing up about a 2-mile-long tunnel that we found under the ground, 2 miles. And that was used to smuggle weapons and get people to go through from one place to another. So we're doing the work. Remember, when we discovered these tunnels, we were in shock to find out that there's about 300 miles of tunnels underground that has been built with, I hate to say it, American and United Nations money. But we're planning on using cement, using all kinds of things to destroy these tunnels so that they'll never be operative again.
Here is the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organization. Quote, we've taken necessary measures and are assessing the damaged areas. Plans for revival of the nuclear facilities were prearranged, and our current strategy ensures no disruption to production and services.
Yeah, well, you know, I was listening, Brennan, to the one of the leaders, the ex-heads of Mossad, and he basically was saying that in this war with Iran, there were no Israeli boots on the ground. There were no American boots on the ground. It was all done from the air. In order to overthrow the Iranian regime, it's got to be boots on the ground. And Israel and America have decided they're not going to do that. So the focus now is on the locals. And he said it's going to take about 80% of the people to rise up and do this. And the way he was talking, he was asked some interesting questions. And like a typical Mossad agent, he was a master at avoiding some of those questions. You could tell he knew stuff that he wasn't prepared or he wasn't allowed to give away. So there are things going down, and we need to keep praying for that situation. We need to especially to pray for the believers there and the young believers who are being saved from their Islamic radical Muslim ways. Some amazing stories going on.
Here's a map. I wish we had a newer map, Aaron, but this is a map of the United States of America. This is coming from the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency. And this is areas of influence of major Mexican transnational criminal organizations. Okay? And they are all over the United States. And many of these criminal drug organizations are working with the Islamists. They're working together. That's what we're facing in America, right? They're for hire by the Islamists. They're for hire, okay? And then we have another one I'm going to go into tonight. The Oversight Project. Cell phone locations link far-left protests organizations to Iran and China. And they go into great detail on the pinging of these phones back to China, back to Iran, and the addresses and the IP addresses, including Mobile Communication Company of Iran. So what I'm saying here, Aaron, is America and Israel are facing the same enemies, China and Iran. And I think China is pulling a lot of the strings with Iran. And again, I just wish the president had let your country finish the job. And I don't want to, I just want our audience to understand the same threats facing Israel. While we don't have ballistic missiles coming into us, we could. All they got to do is put a Club K cargo system off of our coast. All they got to do is bring in a nuclear suitcase. All they got to do is bring in a biological weapon. This is the same groups. And they're here in our country. And a lot of these people at these protests, their phones are pinging back to Iran and China, Aaron.
So, Brandon, I know this is a bit of a sticky topic between you and I, but we talked about this last night. Should America get involved in the interests, what was it, for the sake of national interests? And I go back to my opinion. I believe the answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. Because it came from Iran in 1978 and 79. They pinpointed you. They pinpointed us. Now, we're closer, so it's easy for us to get involved. You're a lot further away, and I understand that. I understand every soldier is precious blood. But the fact that they have brought that war to you, they have killed many Americans around the world. While it may be a long way geographically, they want your blood.
Well, and they're here. They're here.
And they're here. That's
and they're here in the U.S. And I think where you and I agree is, of course, we're trying to go with consistency on our foreign policy of where's the direct conflict to America, where's our interest. And we can argue like you're making a good point for your assessment. And I'm not disagreeing that we shouldn't do something about them, but we just stopped somebody from doing something about them. We called Israel to heal when Israel was going to take care of it, and your commandos said you could take care of it. So we don't have to get involved. We just have to be a good ally and let you finish what you bravely started.
Well put. Perfectly put. I totally agree. And that's why we've got a sense of deep disappointment in our nation. I mean, I know the lefties and the liberals, they're quite happy about it, but really deep down, remember, this war is not just about the last 10 days. This war is living under tyranny, and it's a lot connected with that lady that called in the other night, October the 7th. Mm-hmm. The people that committed that heinous crime were sent out by the Iranians. So that's connected, Brandon.
Yep. And Aaron, live on the ground. Stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider of vcy.org. Thanks for listening. Take care. And we're back with Aaron on the ground in Israel. Aaron, are you aware that Annie was telling us, and she held the book up, were you aware that the Khomeini had written a book on how to rape infants?
Brandon, tell me you're joking. Tell me you are coming up with idiocy. Who does that? How does he get away with that? How does people in his regime let him get away with that?
Well, because they're following the prophet. They're following the prophet. Apparently, remember, he had his little girlfriend at 6, married her, and then consummated at 9. So, Annie.
Well, you know what?
Annie held up the book. But how can Donald Trump negotiate, or anyone negotiate, with demons? You don't negotiate with demons. You eradicate them.
No, you don't. And you know what? Our enemies, they are masters at using PR through the media. They are masters at rubbing our noses in anything and smearing us. We need to rise up with this kind of information. We need to smear it. We need to send it out on all the front pages. Why aren't we doing that? We need a plan to get this out there, to smear, to bring and expose this evil. That's the problem. People are ignorant of this evil, and they're turning against Israel and America, who are trying to stand up for the Judeo-Christian rights, while this murderer and rapist is writing these kind of books. How dysfunctional is that?
Yeah, 100%. How dysfunctional is that? You know what else, Aaron? Maybe the reason we don't take that guy out is because there is a spirit in America that agrees with it. There's a spirit in America that agrees with adults having sexual relations with children and infants. And did you know, out of the University of Indiana, came the Keynesian, or I mean not Keynesian, the Institute, Alfred Kinsey, who taught that children should be sexually active by age 6. And his so-called researchers were involved in what many experts report was the sexual molestation of children as young as 3 months of age. And that is the basis of our sex ed curriculum in America. So maybe the reason America doesn't stand up and eliminate regime leaders like Khomeini, who apparently wrote a book on how to rape children, infants, is because in America, we have allowed that same worldview to permeate our educational system and our sex ed and our abortion industry. Maybe the same demonic agenda is in the minds of many people in America in key places as is in the Khomeini.
You know, Brennan, you've mentioned Romans 1 many times, a reprobate mind. We see the same kind of thing, allowing children to make decisions when they're 6, 7, 8, 12, what sex they want to be. And if the parents resist or disagree, the children can be taken away from the parents. It's that same spirit. I totally agree. And this is where we need to rise up. We need to pray. We need this to be exposed. And thankfully, from what at least I see, this government is trying to take steps in the right direction. I know our government at the moment, which are predominantly right-wing, they're pretty strong and not allowing this kind of thing to happen. Although in some of the cities that I've been through today, I continue to see all these gay flags everywhere. But sadly, the Lord warned us that before he returns, it's going to be like the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's going to be like the days of Lot. And the Lord tells us to remember Lot's wife and not look back, but keep moving forward. Keep running away from this spirit. Keep fighting this spirit. That's our call.
I'm going to have Annie back on about that book tonight because I want to educate more people on that. We have a report that the FBI is pivoting resources to counter terror, cybersecurity efforts, and aimed at the efforts by Iran. Iran's efforts and retaliation is causing our FBI to pivot resources to counterterrorism and cybersecurity. Again, I think if we knew what they were being told in some of our briefings here in America about the threats, the existential threats to us right now, we would have a hard time sleeping, some Americans. You and I probably wouldn't because we've been dealing with this so many years. We've become, I don't want to say callous to it, but we've become comfortable listening to and hearing things. But clearly the FBI is seeing things that in real time that's causing them to pivot. So pray for America, pray for Israel, pray for wisdom for Benjamin Netanyahu, pray for wisdom and discernment for President Trump. And in my mind, pray that President Trump will let Israel be Israel. Just as we want President Trump to be Trump. Let Trump be Trump. Remember people saying that? Let Trump be Trump. Let him do his thing. Yeah. Let Benjamin Netanyahu be the man he needs to be the leader for Israel at this time and this hour. Let them finish off this regime. They said they can do it without our getting involved. Let them do it as we stand back and pray and hold their hands up. That's our report from Israel tonight with Aaron. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Aaron. If you appreciate what we're doing, worldviewfoundation.com. We need your support now. worldviewfoundation.com. Take care.